Keeper, Chapter 14, The Werewolf Alonso. I moved the mosquito net to partially cover Alonso's body, and just because he was a wolf, it didn't mean that he was immune to the mosquito bites. And if you ask me, mosquitoes are the true vampiric menace in Cuba. And I spent a good portion of the night toxin and turning, and try as I might, I wasn't able to sleep. Alonso, are you awake? I asked. No, said Alonso, and he added, can I borrow another one of your pajamas? I have regained my humanity. Sure, go help yourself, I said. And I saw Alonso's silhouette making his way in the darkness, and he then went to sleep beside me. And his confirmation that he has slept with men left me a little on edge. Alonso, laughing, said, relax, Ambrosio, you're not my type. The one I really had the heart for is your beautiful older brother, Valerio. She's a woman, I said. Ah, that's more the pity. I still like her, and she drinks blood in quite a slutty fashion, so I know she suctions well, joked Alonso. At least I hope that he was joking. Good night, Alonso, I said, ending the conversation. Good night, Ambrosio. God, your name sucks, joked Alonso. Yours as well, I said, closing my eyes. This time I managed to consolidate sleep for a change, and Sunday came in with new problems. And during Mass, everyone kept staring at me, and my mother, feeling self-conscious, would sometimes cough, and I was thankful that a different priest was officiating Mass. And I tried to focus on my prayers while historically ignoring everything else. And on my way out, someone called me Marica. And I have only been friends with Alonso for less than 2 weeks, and it is a little too early for folks to be calling me a maricon. And I sighed wearily before going to speak with Alonso, and it is important to stand by your friends even if it completely ruins your reputation. And Alonso smiled when he saw me approach, and his father narrowed his eyes when he saw me. I want to apologize for my son's indiscretion, said Ludo. What did he do? Asked Laura, jumping into the conversation. Nothing sordid, reassured Ludo. It is best that we talk about this in the privacy of our home. Another controversy, and here I hope that with Valerio gone, all of our problems will come to an end, sighed my mother while rubbing her temple. Vampires are at the least of your problems, madam, warned Ludo, but I digress. We took Ludo's carriage back to his home, and Laura happened to squeeze herself within even though nobody had invited her. And she was as independent as ever, much to her annoyance. Ludo unceremoniously flung her out of his carriage when they got to the entrance of her home. And Laura dusted herself off before snapping, I'm a woman, you can't treat me like this. I will treat you like a woman when you start acting like one, barked Ludo before laughing. Very funny, said Laura while the carriage started to depart. Instead of talking at his home, Ludo had the conversation in his carriage, and it was an uncomfortable affair for all involved, and I felt like I was inside an oven. Someone who shall remain nameless has been spreading a new rumor about you, Lady Miranda. Well, not about you per se, but about your husband, explained Ludo before glaring at his son. Well, you know, at my age, Ludo, I no longer care for it, que dirán, and people believe what they want with or without proof. And we can act as respectable as we desire, but people will always talk, said my mother, rubbing her temple. It wasn't my intention to start a controversy. I was merely commenting on the fact that Valerio and Ambrosio had the same green eyes. And you know who else had green eyes? Ambrosio's father. And this explains why Lady Miranda never cared much for Valerio. Because he's the bastard child of the other woman, said Alonso before he could stop himself. Valerio's mother was dead when your father started courting me, said my mother. For the love of God, mother, you are always keeping things from me, I said, pulling at my hair while moaning. Of course I keep things for you, said my mother. You will know everything when you're ready. There is more, I said before rubbing my temple. Yes, there is more than you can possibly imagine, but right now it is not important. This fall you're going to university, and instead of enjoying the few months of freedom you have left, you are spending your time worrying about things that are not important, said my mother. She is right. Go to the city, live a little, lose your virginity already, advised Ludo. And you go do the same, preferably with a woman. I thought you said that you were experienced, I barked. I am experienced with myself, the least said about it the better, said Alonso, shrinking into his seat. The boy talks big, but he's a coward, said Ludo, laughing before slapping his son's back. I can tag along if you prefer it, boy. I can even hold your hand while you do the deed. Dad, you're embarrassing me, said Alonso, covering his face with both his hands. When Alonso was small, he was a little nervous about using the toilet, and to potty train him I had to started explaining Ludo when his son covered his mouth. Dad, enough already, sheesh, barked Alonso. And Alonso settled down once he became certain that his father wasn't going to say anything else, and it was decided that Ludo was going to take us to the big city to lose our virginity. And I found it odd, his strange friendliness, and normally he was politely distant, except for the one time he threw the living room at his son. And why was he being so nice to me? There had to be a reason. And Ludo dropped off my mother at her house, and when we even walked her to the living room. And once we were certain that she was well and comfortable, we set about going to Havana. And it was a completely different trip to be riding in someone's private carriage. And for one thing, there was actually leg room, and since I didn't want Ignacio to feel left out, we picked him up as well. And with him there, Alonso became somber and distant. Ignacio, completely ignoring Alonso, shouted my ear off. And he was excited about the prospect of indulging at someone else's expense. So tell me, Alonso, you're studying to be an artist, right? Asked Ignacio, finally acknowledging Alonso's existence. And he had suddenly dawned on Ignacio that he had to play nice with the son of the man who was paying for everything. Painting is more of a hobby, said Alonso sadly. But you must be studying something, and surely you have plans for the future. Even if you don't plan to spend the rest of your life with hair, even I don't plan to spend the rest of my life with hair on my hair and dung in my hands, retorted Ignacio. I am not making any long-term plans for the time being. My future is uncertain. I suffer from a hereditary chronic illness. I am fine for the moment, but I never know when it decides to act up. Such an illness prevents me from even entertaining the notion of seeking higher education, explained Alonso, alluding to his lycanthropy. I see. Sorry for asking, said Ignacio before coughing nervously, and he added, Did the doctors at least tell you how long you have? Ignacio, I barked before elbowing his ribs. It isn't a life-threatening illness, but it will keep me from living the life of a normal human being, said Alonso before sighing wearily. This line completely killed the ambience, and nobody spoke until we reached Havana, and the carriage stopped before a blue three-story house, and it had an arched entryway with a staircase at the entrance, and the two other floors had 3 balcony floors, and at the top was a flat roof with a railing, and I think there was somebody smoking upstairs, and I see the light of the cigar, but not much else. This building was boxed between a dozen of other identical structures, and the only thing telling these buildings apart was the hue and the balcony decor. And space was a premium in the capital of Cuba, and we made our way up to the 3rd floor, and a black servant dressed in white opened the door, and she accepted the flowers for her master before beckoning the guests to the living room. And rum was brought for the guests, and while I was served milk, and it peeved me that even strangers were treating me like a baby. Ludo, what brings you here? Asked the dainty maiden, and she was dressed in a fine blue dress, and based on her answer and ginger hair, I guessed that she was a Yankee. The boy is finally at that age where he's getting curious about his body, and he's too shy to handle a true brothel, so I brought him here instead, explained Ludo. I don't work anymore, but since you are one of my oldest customers, I will make an exception just for you, said the maiden. Alonso seemed conflicted about the possibility of sleeping with his father's courtesan, and there was something gross about the very idea of sleeping with a woman that had shared the same bed as your own father. And as always, Ignacio volunteered to sleep with a woman first. Tell me, son, have you ever been with a woman that you didn't have to pay for? Asked the maiden when Ignacio took her hand before pulling her to the bedroom. Yes, lied Ignacio. A pity. So you had never tried the sick game known as seduction? Asked the maiden. The lady of the evening has a nose for liars, said Ludo, laughing. While I try to fool around, while I tire the fool, you should talk to my maid, and she will get you whatever you might need, said the lady departing. And what is your master's name? I asked the black servant. Man, woman, black, white, mulatta, asked the servant before giving me a pamphlet. Wow, are all of these people for sale? Asked Alonso, looking over my shoulder. The economy is bad, and folks do what they can to survive, said the black servant. Is this your first time in a venue such as this? It isn't my first time. I mean, it would technically be my first time with a woman, and I had gone to places like this before with my friends or my uncles, but I had never partaken of the forbidden fruit, I said before I was able to stop myself. When you play by yourself, what do you usually prefer? Asked the servant coldly. Nothing. I know the biology behind reproduction, but pleasure or attraction are emotions that I am not familiar with, I said before handing the menu to Alonso. Here you go. At least you know what you like. Man, mouthed Alonso, feeling ashamed. Blondes. He likes them blonde, briefly taller and older than him, I explained. Yes, that does sound about right, said Alonso sheepishly. If the woman is blonde, it might help, and it can be a brunette wig. She has to have naturally silky blonde hair. The maid left the house to find something that met Alonso's specifications. After half an hour, the woman returned to the house with a tall gentleman in a frock coat and a hat. And when the man removed the hat, the blonde hair spilled out, and under the low gaslight, I was able to recognize the face of Valerio. He had returned to Cuba. Perhaps he had not left at all. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye and God bless.